All right. Let's see here. So we need a resolution, and do we have to modify that resolution at all? Yeah. Yes. We haven't done the approved direction one, have we, for the Delawana?
Correct. We just discussed.
Yeah.
Received a verbal update.
Yeah, so. All right. All right, is everybody with us? Or enough of us are with us? So I have moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Cooper, be it resolved that Council of Township of Georgian Bay rise from closed session at 4:31 p.m. to report that we adopted council closed minutes of January 10th, 2022, adopted planning council closed minutes of January 11th, 2022, adopted special council closed minutes of February 1st, 2022, received CEO recruitment update from Legacy Executive Search Partners, discussed direction for legal counsel regarding Delawana Resort matters, provided direction to staff regarding 10540 Georgian Bay Shore, and appointed members to the planning committee whose names will be announced once notified directly. All those in favor? And that is carried. And that comes later. So now we're going back to new business. And the last item we discussed in new business, I believe, was item C. And therefore, I believe we have to go to item D. And item D is Georgian Bay 2021 Financial Indicator Template. And Councillor Hazelton wanted to speak to that matter, I believe.
Not so much that I wanted to speak to it. I really more wanted to understand it. And I'm going to hark back to comments I made earlier on some other topics. We had a document, something like this, back in 2019, and it appeared that we were in good shape financially. And now we discover that we have tax increases we want to hand off to our residents of 3.8, 3.9% or whatever in overall tax burden, and people are expressing serious concern about that. And I don't claim to be an expert at this particular report, but it doesn't look like we're too far off the comparative measures of other townships, but something's gone wrong somewhere, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but how is it that we are now in a situation where we're having very significant tax increases at a time when they should be a half or a quarter of what they are? And I was hoping our financial gurus would tell us that even though our level of risk is low, or in one case moderate, that we are still in good shape, I hope.
Ms. Anderson, can you calm our nerves?
I haven't had time to fully look into all of the information that's provided by the ministry. These are indicators only on the basis that they're comparing us to a group of people. So I would like a little bit more time to look at what they exactly mean by the comparative they're using, and look at the information that's driving those numbers. So I don't think that this is anything to be completely afraid of, but I'd like some more information on that, and get back to. But in general, by looking at it, it just means that our assets are getting old, because it's the total accumulated amortization. So how much we've lost, how much we've used of our assets compared to our total asset cost. So it could mean that we're not investing enough in assets, and which is what we're trying to do by the report we brought to council earlier, meaning that we need to be investing more in our assets on a continuing basis, but it could also just be a little bit skewed by who they're comparing us to.
Thank you for that. I don't have any sense of urgency and understanding it, so I'm quite happy that it comes back at a later time. But I'll just point out one more interesting data point. It too talks about households. So we have yet another source of household definitions, in this case 5798. And how does it compare with the district and impact and all the other things? So I thought you'd get a chuckle or a cringe out of that one. Thank you.
I sure did. As soon as I seen it, I said, oh, no, it's going to come up again. But yes, they use the Statistics Canada information as we request them. They give us a few source and we point them to the, sorry, not Statistics Canada, to the impact data. So we point them in that direction for the statistics. And that's why the skewing that I speak of could also be in the sense where maybe other South LT regions that they're comparing us to might use different data. So we are very different, Georgian Bay, where our household count may be very different than in other areas. So I'll include that in my report back to council.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Celine. I find it quite interesting about the count too, but I'm sure you'll have fun with that one. But in any event, just sort of my simple take on this, and I hope you'll sort of bring that forward when you do come back, is that we weren't putting enough away in the past to meet what, or to do what we should have been doing. Is that correct? And now we're trying to sort of play catch up. Is that a possibility?
Not by this indicator. What this indicator is saying, and it's because I don't want to quote too much on past experience or what the municipality has done in the past, but this one is just saying our assets are depleting faster than what we are investing, which doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. It could just be a large asset that's depleting, yet our investment hasn't been matched by that same depletion. So it's not always factual on it's like kind of like don't read a book by its cover type of scenario. There might be more to the story than we see just from a glance.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite wrong. It's quite possible that in some cases we're maintaining our assets for a longer life than others might have, and that therefore that's good management, that we're not renewing them as quickly as someone, you know, it's like people hang on to a car for 10 years versus people hang on to a car for 2 years. You can argue advantages either way. I mean, but having said that, I think what this tells us is that we're not in horrible financial shape. But what we have been advised is that we have not set enough, according to some measures, we haven't set aside enough, let me call it savings, for future capital expenditures. I'm not seeing anybody else raise their hand, and Councillor Hazelton, I don't think you want necessarily a resolution to come out of this. So I'm just going to put an X through that resolution page and move on. Next on our list is portable washrooms at Mrs. C. Park. Ms. Douglas. Oh, sorry, Councillor Douglas.
Fine. Thank you. Yeah, this is an item that came up from a request rather that came from the MCDA and up in MacTier. Just a little bit of background for those of you who may not be familiar with the Mrs. C. Park. This is a piece of land behind the school up in MacTier that was basically a bit of a wasteland and dumping ground for various materials of the townships and snow removal and so on. And with the help in about 2015, if I'm not mistaken, with the help of operations department and the community and the township as a whole, we managed to make that into a beautiful park for the community, which was, in my opinion, just a fabulous use of that property. Since then, again, with the help of the township and the community, you know, and volunteers and various fundraisings. And so the money is being raised to put in, right now it sits with 2 volleyball courts, which are regulation. The community just put in the gazebo last year, and there's a play set that has been obtained, which is being installed in September. It's quite well used. We've dedicated it to one of the volunteers up in MacTier, and is now called Mrs. C's Park. It's almost directly across from the arena. Anyways, they've come to me to ask if the township would consider, or if there was any possibilities of getting a couple of portable washrooms in there during the summer months. You know, being that we are in a very tight position with our budget this year, I said the best I could offer would be to, and would do it no matter what, bring it to council and put it forward. I know I did talk to Mr. Sokash about this, and I'm sure he's got a few comments to be made on this. So maybe I'll just ask Brad if he could just give us a little bit of his input on it, so we can get an answer back to the MCDA on this.
Mr. Sokash.
Sure. Through the mayor, a porta potty for the season would probably cost on the range of $1,200. That's about what we pay for them through Pepe's for the boat launch in Honey Harbor. This isn't the really pretty ones. This is just the standard construction grade unit. There is a public washroom in MacTier already at the fire hall. Perhaps that's a bit too much of a walk from Mrs. C's Park, but that's about all I have to add. It would be $1,200. We could fund it from our parks fund.
Well, thanks for that, Brad. I just, I did think about that because I know you and I had discussed that briefly. It is a bit far. You consider most of this park is being used for the kids. So I think it'd be a bit of a hike for people to go. I mean, I understand what the ask is, but I also understand, we are under budget restraints. So, but if there's a possibility of putting one in for that particular park, that I think that would be something that would be well appreciated by the community.
All right, Councillor Cooper, followed by Councillor Jarvis, please.
Thank you. And just based on the description of how this has been developed and the use it's getting, I'd certainly support doing this. It makes perfect sense to me. So I'm in favor of supporting that. Thank you.
Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I think we should probably bring a motion forward to bring in a porta potty. I don't want to consider what the alternatives are for local kids that all of a sudden have to use facilities that don't exist. As a friend of mine says, for guys, the world is your bathroom, but it's not always that way for everybody. So I think perhaps that would be a wise investment on our part.
I have moved by Councillor Councillor Wojcik.
Yeah, thanks. I'm definitely going to support this, but Brad, do we have to put in a hand washing station too because of the COVID protocols? I know on our construction sites, we have a construction style porta potty, but right next to it, there's a hand washing station.
Through the mayor, it'll just depend on what regulations are in place at the time. If we do, we can. It's not a big expense.
Yeah, my reason was maybe just a contingency for that, just in case.
Julie will approve it.
I know she will.
Thank goodness we have that new procurement policy. So no, I also, by the way, just strongly support this. I think it's a great idea. And what's happening there with Mrs. C's Park and how much it's being supported by the community, I think we should absolutely. We've done other things for that park. It's kind of a necessity that I think we should be doing. I have moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Wienko. Whereas the MacTier Development Association has identified the need for portable washrooms during the summer months, and whereas Mrs. C Park in MacTier has been identified as the location for portable washrooms, therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to source and maintain a portable washroom to be available at Mrs. C Park from the months of May through September, and that the cost be funded from the Parks Fund. Councillor Douglas.
Sorry, just on that, do you have that down as MacTier Community Development Association?
The word community is missing.
Yeah, if you could just a technicality. And thank you to the councillors and mayor for your support on this. I'm sure the community will be just thrilled.
All right, I won't reread the resolution again, other than the word community has been added. All those in favor? And dare I say, that's unanimous. All right, so that's been withdrawn. And so now I believe what we have is item G, with the reopening of the municipal office. And we've already covered that this morning, have we not? Okay, so now, unless the clerk corrects me, we're into bylaws.
14A.
And I just gotta make. So
Yeah.
14A is the fireworks bylaw, and the resolution in front of me is moved by Councillor Bocek, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved, the council adopts bylaw 2022-009 to prohibit the setting off of fireworks. I think it's a little more complex than just that, but that's the title that I've been given. Councillor Wienkel, followed by Councillor Bocek, please.
Did we miss an item? 13F, Go Home Lake Road water pump?
Apparently that was withdrawn, sorry.
Sorry, okay, I didn't know that.
Just confirming if that was, it was withdrawn.
Yes.
I
Okay,
did, yeah, I did withdraw it, actually. I think we've resolved some of the issues there.
okay, thank you. Okay, now, Councillor Bocek.
Thank you. I'm going to hold off for a minute. I have to look something up if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Thank you. I'll be back at you.
Okay. Anybody else on the fireworks bylaw? I'm just wondering, before we get to Councillor Jarvis and then Councillor Bocek, Councillor Way, instead of saying in your resolution here to prohibit the setting off of fireworks, shouldn't we say to limit? Because we're not outright banning them. Would you take that as a friendly amendment, Ms. Way?
Sorry, Your Worship, could you please repeat that?
Good. The resolution that you prepared for me, it says that the adopt bylaw 2022-009 to prohibit the setting off of fireworks. In reality, we're just limiting the setting off of fireworks.
No, because the title of the bylaw in the preamble is to prohibit.
Oh,
It's how it's just. If you read the actual bylaw, that's the description at the top. That's where that phrasing comes from. So that's the phrasing we need to use.
okay. All right. Councillor Bocek, you're back, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just had to confirm, looking at the minutes of the meeting, but if you wouldn't mind to remove my name from the motion. I wasn't in favor of the resolution during COW, and I certainly wouldn't be the one to bring it to the floor.
All right. Councillor Jarvis, would you be willing to step in as the mover of this motion?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. And I was just going to comment that I was afraid that we might move ahead on our voting while Councillor Bocek was checking on something. So I didn't want to move ahead before we had his input, but I have no problem being part of the motion.
All right, right now I have it moved by Councillor Jarvis and seconded by Councillor Cooper. Any discussion? All those in, or is that a discussion, Councillor Jarvis? Okay, Councillor Jarvis, discuss, please.
As per the dark sky lighting, I'm going to ask our fire chief if the bylaws that's currently set up is something that is an administrative headache for him or it works for him.
Chief Van Dam.
Boy, that's really putting you on the spot. Yes, it is an administrative headache because a lot of the times when somebody's letting off the fireworks, by the time we get to it, trying to figure out who's done it, we've been out a number of times in the past where I've asked a fire officer from one of the fire stations to go and see if we can do it, because by the time I call in a bylaw officer at that time of night, it's long gone. So we've been out with the fire staff a couple times, just trying to see if we can find out where it's coming from. And there's been a few times where we haven't been able to find out where it's coming from.
Have we laid charges in the past or laid fines?
There's been no fines for fireworks bylaw infractions in the last 5 years. There has been a bunch of education sessions, shall we say, and that's due to fireworks being let off while there's a fire ban or in the extreme high. So,
do you imagine? I'm sorry to have this drag on a bit, but do you imagine that I'm looking at this bylaw, going, okay, it's a bylaw, but it's more guidance than something that we're going to be able to really totally adhere to? Would that be sort of your thinking on this?
It's just a tool in the toolbox to try to help educate.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's very difficult to be able to pinpoint where it's coming. Like we've been out on the bay, and you can imagine when that happens, it's very costly for the municipality, because it's a matter of firing up the fireboat. I've got to call in enough staff to do it, and we go out there. And I'm only going off the top of my head, so don't hold me to a lot here, but we've had some issues in the Mac tier area with people lighting fireworks off, I'm going to say in the downtown or the main street there, and then over towards the rail lines, that I've had to ask some fire officers to go out and check to see if we can find it. But it's usually, that's our, for the most part, it appears to be our teenage kids with them and just lighting them off, and they keep going where they're going.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that would be the case. I just curious. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper, followed by Councillor Douglas, please.
Thank you. And just briefly, I do view this as just as described by you, Tony, as a tool in the toolbox, and it's really to try and bring about better behavior as opposed to enforcement, especially out on Georgian Bay. I think it's quite unrealistic for us to expect that your department would be sending people out in the dark to enforce something like this, but to have it there so that people know how they're supposed to behave will help a lot, I think. And so that's I think what our thinking was when we brought this forward. Thank you.
Chief Undum.
I will, as I always caution you, when you put a bylaw in place, it's got to be prepared to be used for enforcement, or we create the other end of liability. Why didn't you do it? So one of the reasons why we don't get into a lot of charges with it is because we got to find out, and we need a witness who lit the fireworks off, and a lot of the times, by the time we get there, the fireworks are done, and everybody's close-lipped and not going to say a word about it. So that becomes the issue for the enforcement for us, and that's why it ends up going the way it goes. When we put a bylaw in place, I'm ready to enforce the bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas, followed by Councillor Bochek.
Thank you. I just wonder if I can be reminded here, when we put this in place, did we have any parameters around this as if there was fireworks? I think part of this was a lot of the rental places on the lakes are having issues because it's a new crew every week and they're all in the celebratory mood, and that is causing a lot of problems. But I'm just wondering, did we add something in this bylaw or discuss that it would be the owners that would be held responsible? if there was, for instance, if we, Tony, maybe you could answer this one because it's probably more critical. What if we have fireworks let off and that is the cause of a forest fire? Who's
So-
responsible for them?
Through your worship, anybody who, I'm going to say starts that fire could be legally held responsible for that fire. So if they're lighting off fireworks in the bush and it starts a forest fire, we're most likely, depending exactly where it is, it may be the MNR, but somebody may get ticketed or charged with it, and then the liabilities that come out with that. But we're back to who did it, who's seen it. Might be a tough go. As for your short-term rentals, people's coming in, that is one of the, I'm going to say, one of the concerns that would be addressed during the short-term rentals, that we would hold a property owner responsible, but we currently don't have that tool with us. So that's one of the tools that we'll be looking for the future.
Okay, thank you for that, Tony.
Thank you. Councillor Bochek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't support this in the beginning, and I'm still not going to support it. And the two reasons that I come to this conclusion is I think people, especially the constituents that I deal with, are tired of government taking away freedoms and rights. It's just been jammed down their throat constantly. And I don't think this is the right time to be introducing something like this. The other part is most of my ward, the bodies of water are in 2 townships. So Gloucester Pool, Little Lake, half the lake is Severn Township, half is ours. The Severn River, same thing. You're going to have half the lake blowing off fireworks and half the lake sitting there going, we'll get fined if we do it. So I kind of don't want to play the devil's advocate on this at all, but I can't support something that I don't truly believe in. And I think this is too restrictive, and it's taking away people's rights to celebrate and have fun on their own terms, not on our terms. Thank you.
All right, I know we've discussed this fairly extensively at prior meetings. Councillor Wink, were you, yeah, I thought
I guess
after you
you just have to
unmuted
record-
yourself, you wanted to add something.
Just have a recorded vote.
All right. Ms. Way, can you kick that into gear? We have moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved that council adopts bylaw 2022-009 to prohibit the setting off of fireworks. Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you, Mayor. It would appear that there are some inland councillors who are not in favor of this, and yet this is a huge, huge issue for the people out in the Bay. This may be a situation where one size does not fit all. And I would hate to see us ever get to a point where all the effort and all the complaints that have come in have resulted in no action when there are other communities with different characteristics that may not want it, and maybe their communities on general don't want it. But I can tell you, out in the Bay, I haven't talked to anybody who is opposed to a fireworks bylaw regulating the fireworks, as we've talked about. So this is very, very, very broadly supported, certainly in my ward and other people that I've spoken to in the Bay. And I would hate to see us in a situation where we lose traction on this because other communities have different interests.
I don't know if it'll make you feel any better at all, Council Hazelton, but some people from inland lakes have complained to me about fireworks. And a primary example have been the rental properties. Not that it's their neighbors actually are doing the complaining. Ms. Way, can you take the vote for us, please?
Absolutely, Your Worship. Let the record show that Councillor Wayanko has requested a recorded vote. Councillor Wayanko, how do you vote?
No.
Counselor Bocek, how do you vote? Counselor Bocek, how do you vote? You're on mute, sir.
Sorry, no.
Thank you. Counselor Cooper, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Douglas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Hazelton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Jarvis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Krutsier, how do you vote?
Yes.
Let the record show the motion carries 5-2.
All right. Thank you. Our next bylaw to be considered, moved by Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Douglas, be it resolved that Council adopts bylaw 2022-010 to amend the procurement policy bylaw 2013-074, as was discussed earlier today. Any additional comment? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is carried. And our final bylaw to be considered, and this is moved by Councillor Rienko, second by Councillor Hazelton, be it resolved that Council adopts bylaw 2022-011 to regulate outdoor illumination to ensure responsible lighting, light pollution mitigation, and conservation of the dark sky environment. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And this is carried. Thank you. Okay, then we've done the closed session resolutions. I believe I think
we have to vote to adjourn.
I think we're mighty close to that. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not missing something here because,
Nope.
as you can well imagine, I have missed things in the past.
How about be it resolved that it's Valentine's Day and guys are allowed to go ice fishing?
I thought it was Valentine's Day and therefore guys, we got to play with the new boats.
Where'd you get that one from?
Yeah, just saying.
We're on page 50, your worship.
And I just got there. Thank you. So I have moved by Councillor Rienko, seconded by Councillor Douglas, be it resolved the Council adopts bylaw 2022-012 to confirm the proceedings of the February 14th, 2022 council meeting. All those in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that council does now adjourn at 5:03 p.m. until February 15th, 2022 at 2 p.m. because I guess that's for the special council meeting, or at the call of the chair. All those in favor? And just thank you. That is carried. And just as a reminder, of course, at 9 a.m. we have the planning council meeting. So we're going to see each other again at 9. So we are adjourned for the day. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. And may you enjoy the evening with your Valentines, depending upon how many you have in your family or not. And till tomorrow morning.